All right. Hello. How are y'all doing? As usual, I am nice and sweaty and dirty and covered in grass. I think I got most of it off of me. And it's Tuesday. We're Work's getting back into rhythm. Looks like everything's gonna fall into place. Um, not this coming weekend, but the weekend after, I'm going to go to the fights with my son Talon and watch the retirement fight of Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway. So it's gonna be a nice long weekend in New Orleans, but I'll release something next week before I go do that. And but before we dive in, because there's a couple of things I know that y'all want my opinion on. I've already gotten a couple of messages from people interested in what I have to say about things. Before we dive in, Alp. You got to get your Alp, man. 28 years of smoking. I finally quit last year, and it's been over a year now that I haven't had a cigarette. And when I get that hankering for some nicotine, I just throw in an Alp and let that wintergreen flavor just wash it away. Alp is awesome. It's better than any of the other nicotine pouches out there. I don't have any trouble breathing. I don't have any problems with my gums. I don't have any issues with energy. None of that good jazz. I just suck on an Alp and pause, and and then I go on with my day, man. It's revitalizing, revigorating. I love it. It's the best freaking nicotine pouch out there. Don't torture your lungs anymore by smoking. Don't torture your gums with dip. Get you some Alp nicotine pouches and be rid of the tobacco and all those harmful additives that get added into the tobacco. Get you some Alp, man. The link in the description below. 10% off your order. If you order $70 or more, it's free shipping. That's what I do. I put on reoccurring shipping, 3 logs. That's 15 cans, 3 logs a month. That's $70 and I get my free shipping. So jump in the link in the description below, get your 10% off, order $70 or more and get your free shipping and just roll, man. Have your nicotine delivered right to your door and you don't have to worry about stopping at the store anymore and dealing with all those assholes. So get you some Alp, brother. Get in the link in the description below, 10% off for your Alp. What the hell's going on here? Allow and drive. Now, like my computer's going crazy. It's like, no, don't Alp. And I'm like, yes, Alp. Uh, it's trying to have me set up something. I'm like, I don't want to set anything up. I'm in the middle of something right here. So, yeah, there are a couple of stories on my mind today. Obviously, prayers for the families of the girls and all the kids and in the hill country um, that have been washed out in that flood. And there's some rabbits playing in my front yard. I'm watching. I'm sorry. It was so distracting. They're like jumping over each other and shit. Yeah. So obviously thoughts and prayers to their family. And man, that's so hard. Those poor little girls. And that's that they're not going to find, if they do find them, they're not going to find them alive. And that's so sad for those families and for those parents. So yeah, so definitely keep those families in your thoughts and your prayers. Um, they definitely need that. Oh, there's a fly. Um, Today I'm drinking Coors Banquet. Yeah, old school. Yeah. So my I was introduced to Coors Banquet when I was 19 years old. That's when I started drinking Coors Banquet. Well, we always called it Coors Original, and now if you ask for Coors Original, they give you a Coors Light. So you gotta definitely like the Banquet, not Coors Light. Even though I'll drink Coors Light every once in a while, but not on. It's not what I'm in the mood for today. But but yeah, thoughts and prayers to the families involved in the flooding in the hill country up in near Kerrville from the Guadalupe River. Um, that's terrible. Everything that I've heard about what's going on is terrible. I did hear one Coast Guard. I think he was a petty chief in the Coast Guard that was interviewed, and he had saved like 165 people over the last like week. It's just phenomenal, like just incredible. So lots of love to those guys, and my heart goes out to those families. The last thing a parent wants is to lose a child. I can't imagine what they're going through. And I've reached out to friends that, like old friends I hadn't talked to in years that live up there, haven't heard back from them. I I would guess that they're okay, but um, prayers for them as well, and all the other families that are being afflicted by the flooding up there. And damn it, Ted Cruz, stop fucking going on vacation because every time you go on vacation, something bad happens. So just stop, dude. You're not allowed to leave the country anymore, unless you go back to Canada, which I'm not opposed to you going back to Canada, Ted. Bye, Felicia. Um, anyway, let's dive into the Epstein stuff first, and we'll save like a fun story for the end because you got the depressing, and then you got the enraging, and then you got the funny and fun and story at the end. So let's do it in that order. So let's go with the Epstein stuff. Um, there's a lot of apparently there's no evidence of a client list, and they're being really shady about the way that they're saying these things. They're not saying that no one else was involved. They're saying there's no client list. So it's not like, and for a man who was keeping, I mean, you got to understand, like Epstein was keeping phenomenal notes on his logs as far as people that were accompanying him on his yacht, people that were accompanying him on his plane. I think the plane is actually required per law, but still, like having logs, like detailed logs of every person that was accompanying you on a yacht on a particular day. I don't know. Is that required? Like that, and that seems like anal retentive, like OCD almost. Um, to be keeping logs of that sort, of that nature. So I guess people expected that he would have like a list of people that he knew, that he was associated with, and their preferences, right? So there's been a lot of we'll go through some of the names and who they are and what we know as far as the accusations go. But yeah, I think that's kind of what people were hoping for, that it was going to be that cut and dry, that easy. Um, they're saying they're basically giving the idea that Epstein alone has it's hard talking about, like, you have all these little girls up in the hill country devastated by this flood, killed, washed away. And now we're talking about this man who plundered so many lives of young women, young girls. And I was looking earlier, and it was like it was one of the AI, like the Google AI, and I was just Googling something about Epstein victims, and it was like, yeah, like 1,000 victims, 1,000 victims of this guy. And it's like, man, like all those lives devastated, completely destroyed. And the one that played out most publicly was Virginia Giuffre. Um, Played out most publicly. She ended up committing suicide in Australia. Her and her husband were on the outs. Her kids, she wasn't seeing her children anymore, from what I understand. Um, and she kind of, I don't know if everything caught up with her and she just had like a nervous breakdown, and, being in the public eye for something that's so insane, and you're pointing the finger at prominent, well-known figures, and they're denying it at every turn, and nobody wants to believe you because they have the power of governments behind them. I can't imagine. I mean, you're talking about like a handful of people that I can think of that have ever been in that situation, like Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, Virginia Giuffre. Like it's like she's up there with like very few people have had to deal with that type of scenario. Don't know what it could do to you psychologically. Um, it's believed that some of the things she said were either embellished or lies. Um, like the whole Dershowitz thing where he was like, "Well, I kept my underwear on the whole time." It's like, yeah, dude, but I mean, given what she had been going through and then putting her in the situation where she's giving this fat attorney from New York a massage in his underwear, maybe you didn't do anything wrong per se by your perspective. Maybe every massage I've never gone and gotten a massage. I couldn't tell you how it works. I won't do it. I don't like massages. I don't enjoy it. It gives me the creeps. It's like so no, I won't do it. It doesn't seem to help either. It usually like paralyzes me for like 2 days. Um, but so I've never gone and had a professional one done. Just the few girls that have tried to seduce me over my lifetime have tried to give me one, and I've never enjoyed them. Never been a fan. And so maybe that's how you do it. Maybe when you go get a professional massage and he's hanging out at Epstein's mansion, one of Epstein's mansions, whether it's New York, New Mexico, um, Little St. James, or down there in Florida, he was hanging out at one of his places and he got a massage from Virginia Giuffre. And, um, you know, he's like, well, I kept my underwear on the whole time. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do. I don't know. Um, and she felt violated by it, and given everything that she had gone through, you would wonder if like if Dershowitz may have had a different perspective of getting a massage in his underwear from this girl. I think at the time she was 17, and had he known what she had been going through. But the problem is, see, the problem is like James Patterson wrote a book, and before all this broke, it was in like, I want to say it was like 2017 it came out. It was right before all this broke and started really going viral online, before Cernovich had gotten involved and before the Miami Herald got involved. Um, he had written this book called Filthy Rich, and it was about the first Epstein trial, like I think from like 2009, I want to say it was, when he went on house arrest. Um, for the most part. He was like, I think he had to like show up for 12 hours a week or some stupid shit like that for like 18 months after um after raping all these young girls. Some of them are as young as 14. I've heard rumors that there were girls as young as 12 involved. But I don't think there's any evidence, like hard evidence for that. So I kind of like shy away from talking about that, as disgusting as it is. Hopefully that is just rumor and it's not true. Um, but you know, he had what he would do is he would procure these girls. I think it was Virginia Giuffre. He procured from Mar-a-Lago, and Trump got word that he was like basically like preying on the girls that worked at Mar-a-Lago, and basically he basically kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago and cut all ties with Epstein. I know there's record of Trump saying that he liked him young, and that I'm looking to see if I can find the book. I know I have the book. I might have loaned it to my dad, and it might still be at his house. But But yeah, it's a book called Filthy Rich by James Patterson. It goes through the whole court case, the original court cases, and all the accusations. And what he was doing is he was procuring a girl, and then once he would procure a girl, whether he did, Ghislaine did, he would get that girl back. He would have her give him a massage, and then he would insist that she make him come. And it may not be the first time she shows up to give him a massage, but he would pay her like pretty well. And he was really preying on lower income um, girls that weren't used to money. So he'd give them like $100 for a massage. And so they'd come back and he'd tell them, well, next time you come back, bring a friend and, and your friend can make some money too. And so he had this network of girls procuring other girls. Um, that he had already taken advantage of. And so he was paying them like, I don't know, I think it was like $100 per massage. And so these girls were attracted by the money and he was living this large lifestyle because he was a rich financier who worked with world powers. And he would bring them on flights and fly them around the world and spend time with them overseas. And these girls were from like trailer parks and very poor, impoverished areas around Fort Lauderdale, which isn't the wealthiest part of Florida. I think it's about 40. I think I lived in we lived in Fort Lauderdale when I was a kid, but I don't really remember it that well. I was like 4 or 5 years old. I was really young when we lived there, but it's like 45 minutes outside of Miami, I want to say, something like that. And and so um yeah, he was you preying on these young, innocent, impoverished girls that were taken aback by his lifestyle, his wealth, his charm, and then he was using them to procure other girls for him. It reminds me of the story of the Candy Man out of Houston. If you don't know that story, that's a really interesting serial killer in the where was that? Was it Pasadena? I want to say it was Pasadena, the Pasadena area in Houston. Um, that's a really, I don't know. That's a side. Hey, he was in the Heights too, I want to say. Yeah. So anyway, so but yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. He was using other children to bring children to him for his sexual needs and desires, and paying them like $100, cash. So that's how he ended up getting charged with um, prostitute. It was a prostitution of a minor or something like that, and he ended up only getting like 18 months. Then obviously there's the story that one of the guys that worked in the first Trump administration had said that he was told to leave Epstein alone because he belonged to intelligence. So there's all that information. But as far as hard information, it's going to be hard to come by anything like that. But I just want to go through some of the more open details that we are able to find. So I'm going to the Independent right now. So this was January 10th of 2024. Epstein documents reveal creepy note about meeting with 16-year-old Russian tutor. An associate of Jeffrey Epstein offered to introduce him to a 16-year-old girl under the pretext of giving him Russian lessons, court documents reveal. A message a message left for Epstein by one of his employees. This was a message left by Ghislaine Maxwell, come to find out, to Jeffrey Epstein. Claims that Jean-Luc Brunel, a French model scout who died in 2022 while awaiting trial for child rape, had found a teacher, quote unquote teacher, who could give Epstein free lessons. He has a teacher for you to teach how to speak Russian. She is 2 times 8 years old, not blonde, the message reads. Lessons are free, and you can have your first today if you call. The creepy message was seized by Florida police during the first investigation into Epstein in 2005, 2006. So I said 2009. It was before that. Before resurfacing resurfacing in a tranche of newly uncensored documents made public on Monday. The documents come from a long-running defamation lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's former girlfriend, who was convicted in 2021 of trafficking underage girls for Epstein to sexually abuse. I don't know. This is really bad podcasting because I started reading silently. I shouldn't do that. That's a bad Tommy. Bad Tommy. Sorry. Sorry. I was like, what wait, what is that? Then another name that popped up a lot during that defamation case for with between Virginia Giuffre and Ghislaine Maxwell was Les Wexner, who was the CEO. I think he was the founder of Victoria's Secret. He also worked with Abercrombie and Fitch, whose CEO and two other partners had been arrested for child trafficking. I think in 2022 or 2023, somewhere around there. I don't know. Weird. It's kind of weird the circles that these things are going in, and yet we're made to believe that there's no evidence that anybody else was involved. Well, we know Jean-Luc Brunel was arrested in France in a case that related to Jeffrey Epstein for child rape, and he died in 2022 before um, being sentenced. Les Wexner, his name came up more than 45 times in a 2015 lawsuit filed by Virginia Giuffre. It accused Epstein and partner Ghislaine Maxwell of directing her sexual involvement with prominent men like Les Wexner. And I have a list of some of the men that she had named other than Alan Dershowitz. In December 17th, 2020, a French modeling agent was arrested. This is Jean-Luc Brunel, was arrested as part of an investigation by the city's prosecutor's office connected to accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Jean-Luc Brunel was arrested at Charles de Gaulle Airport on Wednesday, according to a prosecutor's office. He was so he worked a lot with young girls, young models, modeling clothes and stuff like that. He was the one that I heard. I think it was well, I'm not. No, I'm not gonna go. He was the one that supposedly procured three 12-year-old girls for Jeffrey Epstein for Epstein's birthday one year. But like I said, I don't see, haven't seen any evidence of that that I can follow up on. It's possible that that's true. I hope it's not for those girls' sakes because that's just terrible. Um, August 4th, 2023, the CNN headline, Leon Black agrees to pay $62.5 million to avoid Jeffrey Epstein related lawsuits in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, this is where it gets interesting because Bank of America was investigated by the House, I think it was the House Commerce Department of the House of Representatives, something like that, and for money laundering for between Leon Black and Jeffrey Epstein in relation to um, child trafficking, money laundering, and or um, terrorism, like funding terrorism. And so this happened but this didn't come up until 2020, after like 6 months after Epstein had died. I had I can pull up that article actually. If you give me a second, maybe I should have done this ahead of time. God damn it. So, let's go. Let's see if I can pull this up here. I don't know what y'all can see and what y'all can't. I don't know if you're still looking at my ugly face while I'm doing this. Uh, See, I don't know how to type. I'm a truck driver. I don't type well. billionaire investor raping. Well, this is in July 27th, so we can go through a couple of these. Let me pull this back up and make sure that y'all have some sort of view here. Hold on, I didn't even think to do this. Share, can share at a time. Okay, let me share that. Okay, so so now y'all can see my screen here. All right, billionaire investor Leon Black is accused of raping teen. Let me see what this says. It's gonna pull up. See how slow my internet is? In Jeffrey Epstein's New York townhouse, a woman is suing the billionaire investor Leon Black, accusing him of raping her at Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan townhouse when she was 16 years old. The lawsuit describes in gruesome detail the woman's account of a sexual assault that left her bleeding and sobbing. Her lawyers say that the woman, identified as Jane Doe, has autism and a rare form of Down syndrome that has left her developmentally about 12 years old. A lawyer for Black, Susan Estrich, said Black has never met the woman and called the lawsuit frivolous and full of vicious and defamatory lies. Estrich also says the suit was manufactured by the Wigdor law firm, which had filed a previous sexual assault complaint against Black that was eventually thrown out. Whit Clay echoed Estrich's denial, saying the law firm has an agenda and that its credibility has been impugned by the dismissal of the previous suit. John M. Christensen, a partner of Wigdor, said that Black's conspiracy theories and finger pointing are an obvious attempt to shift the focus away from his heinous acts. Black, who is 71, is the co-founder and former CEO of Apollo Global Management. He left the private equity firm in 2021, shortly after a New York Times report revealed that he allegedly regularly dined with Epstein and paid him for consulting and other services. An internal Apollo investigation that documented his 158 million payment to Epstein found no wrongdoing. I think that 158 million right here payment actually has been updated to 170 million, if I'm not mistaken. So he's denying. In addition to the case that was thrown out, another complaint brought by Cherry Pearson in November accuses Black of violent sexual assault that left her swollen, torn, and bleeding. Jeez. This, the latest suit is the third to publicly accuse Black of rape. He has denied all the allegations. Epstein died in suicide in prison in 2019, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So, yeah, Leon Black is not a good dude. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Leon Black is the one who he gifted Jeffrey Epstein his Manhattan apartment that was worth like $70 million or something like that. So, this is what I was talking about right here. And this got, I remember when this came out because Bank of America was like cutting ties with like Leon Black and different individuals that were associated with Jeffrey Epstein when this came out. This was on August 4th of 2023 that this came out. Billionaire investor Leon Black struck a multi-million dollar settlement with the government of the U.S. Virgin Islands to avoid any legal claims tied to a Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking investigation. According to a settlement document obtained by CNN, Black agreed in January to pay the Virgin Islands government $62.5 million in cash. In exchange, the Virgin Islands released Black from any current and future legal claims related to Jeffrey Epstein. All right. So that's what I was talking about there. Now, is this a situation of where there's smoke, there's fire? Is this Leon Black character as involved as, let's say, Jean-Luc Brunel in the Epstein scandal? Um, I don't know. I know there are Sagar and Jetty was on Tucker Carlson today talking discussing the situation, and he brought up Leon Black, and he seems to point at the fact that the Leon Black Jeffrey Epstein situation isn't so much about sex trafficking and so much about procuring young women as it is about money laundering and financial crimes, which is possible. I mean, who knows what these billionaire individuals are doing with all this money and how they how they move it around and keep from getting taxed and et cetera, et cetera. Um, so I ran into this article earlier, and this gives you, there it goes. It wasn't coming up. So this is from Swiss Policy Research. It's called the Gouffre Files. It was published August 2019 and updated in July of 2020. This goes through a list of names that are mentioned in the lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell uh, by Virginia Gouffre. So Prince Andrew is the one that everybody knows about. He's been disowned by the royal family, which I think the royal family should be disowned by everyone because, Jimmy Savile, but they don't really have a problem with pedophiles. They have a problem with pedophiles that get caught. Um, in quotations, another prince, in quotations, foreign presidents. Then we get into names here. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, former U.S. Senator and Disney President George Mitchell, U.S. billionaire and Hyatt Hotel heir Tom Pritzker, U.S. billionaire and hedge fund manager Glenn Dubin, U.S. billionaire and Epstein sponsor Leslie Wexner, former MIT professor Marvin Minsky, French model agent Jean-Luc Brunel, U.S. Attorney and Epstein defendant Alan Dershowitz. We already kind of discussed that. Other powerful men and world leaders. All of these men deny any involvement, but some of Gouffre's statements have been confirmed by other Epstein victims. In addition, Gouffre provided detailed witness testimony. Her statements and allegations cover the years from 2000 to 2002 when she was 16 to 18 years old. Judge, okay, okay. Well, I lost where I was. That doesn't matter. Um, Johanna Schoberg she was a swimmer and she was 21 years old, I believe, when she met Jeffrey Epstein through Ghislaine Maxwell. She was sexually assaulted at his Manhattan residence. As far from her testimony, she says that she was sexually assaulted at his Manhattan residence by Prince Andrew, and she co-signs many of the accusations that Virginia Giuffre gives against these powerful men. You can take it for what it's worth. Um, Notice that on that list, Leon Black was not mentioned, but he's been accused of rape 3 times, one of which we know was by an underage, mentally disabled child. And yeah, it's just such a fucking dark fucking subject, man. Uh, this world is disgusting. Um, and it's like it's kind of like when you start looking at some of these accusations, it's not like oh, who was that Supreme Court justice that all these weird accusations were being thrown at whenever he was whenever Trump nominated him. It's not like that. Like these accusations seem pretty like I don't like the word reasonable, but like feasible, and like you can see like where these women are coming from and they're getting detailed and it just kind of it gives me the heebie-jeebies, man. Like I'm not saying every billionaire is a pedophile, but geez, a lot of them are. Um, and this isn't unique to American culture. Um, I think it was what was it like? 15, 20 years ago, I remember reading a story. I think it was China lowered the marriage age to like 6 years old that you could marry a girl. It was just like some of these people are so degenerate and so unhappy with their own lives that they're just looking to fulfill that void in their life by any means necessary, even if it means destroying someone else's life. Um, I talked about Filthy Rich by James Patterson already. I got one last note that, all right, so this videotape, go watch, Glenn Beck released like a 38-minute video from his radio show discussing this videotape. It shows nothing. Like the videotape's not even aimed at Jeffrey Epstein's cell. If you're looking at the videotape, there's a trash can. Epstein's cell is under that trash can and to the right. It's not even like in view. Like there's a space below that trash can where people could be walking on the ground floor that that you can't see in that video. That video shows nothing. That the video is not evidence of anything. And then they release a video that has this 1 minute glitch or edit or whatever happens to that fucking video. And you're like, geez, man, why you didn't even mention that there's a problem with the video? Like whatever happened with the video happened with the video. You let us go through it and figure it out on our own. We don't trust y'all. We don't believe the narratives that's coming out. Like when Cash Patel was nominated as the head of the FBI, I was excited. I was like, this is a no nonsense guy. He's just going to go in there and tell the truth. Like I saw the work he did behind Russiagate, and I was like, okay, he's just going to like dig into what the truth is. Same when Dan Bongino came in as his what secretary underling, his underling, whatever he's called, his title is. It doesn't even matter. I was like, all right, like I don't like everything that Bongino says. I don't like everything that Bongino stands for, but I don't think Bongino's a fucking liar. Now I think they're all fucking liars. Like I was already pretty fed up with the government system. But then I went and I allowed myself to get a little bit of hope and a little bit of like, all right, maybe things are going to change a little bit. Maybe we're going to see a different kind of maneuvering here. Maybe people will start seeing facts and we'll start getting some realization of what's going on. And then these guys come in and tell you, "Oh no, well the narrative that Bill Barr told you is correct." It's like, "No, dude. No. I'm sorry. I don't buy it. You're lying. I don't believe you. No one believes this. No one believes that there are not other people involved in this situation. You want to tell me that Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, by himself, over a what 19-year, 20-year period, victimized 1,000 girls by himself. No help. Nobody was bringing them to him. Nobody was flying the plane. Nobody was taking the video. Nobody was taking the pictures. Nobody was maintaining the house. Nobody was visiting when this was happening. He just did it all on his own. Him and Ghislaine Maxwell, the two of them by themselves, victimized 1,000 girls when he's close with Jean-Luc Brunel. He's close with Les Wexner. He's close with Prince Andrew. But we're supposed to believe that these guys that have been accused of sexual assaulting young girls, I take that back about Les Wexner. I'm not sure if he's been accused by a girl, but I know there have been accusations. There was one girl that testified that he had a real fetish for little girls in lingerie. I remember seeing that. Um, I guess I could look that up. Les Wexner. Speaking out as a new documentary explores the lingerie brand's rise. Doc exposes naked truth behind the lingerie brand. Epstein accuser allegedly. Yeah, here. This is what I was talking about. Epstein accuser allegedly knew what lingerie Victoria's Secret boss likes and his other sexual hangups. Virginia Giuffre claimed to know details about former Victoria's Secret mogul Les Wexner's taste in lingerie and other sexual hangups, according to newly released court documents. Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz is currently in a legal battle against Epstein accuser Giuffre, blah, blah, blah. In court documents released on Friday, Dershowitz claims she did the same thing to Wexner. A phone call detailed in the documents between Dershowitz and Wexner's attorney, John Ziegler, outlined that a lawyer for Gouffre told Ziegler she knew about Wexner's sexual hangups and that he liked girls dressed in negligees. I think there was a general reference to the type of lingerie and things like that, but no specifics, Ziegler said on the call. Sounds like she knows he owns Victoria's Secret and imagines that as a result of that, he must be into the kind of lingerie that's sold in the company. God damn these fucking ads. Anyway, so yeah, okay. So that's that. So it was Virginia Giuffre who said she knew what his sexual hangups were and that he liked to see girls in negligee. So, and like I said, that's just some dark shit, dude. It's so fucking dark. That's some dark shit. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that we have to talk about this. And if we found out, oh man, if we found out tomorrow that Virginia Giuffre and this Johanna girl made all this shit up, and there were actually no victims of Jeffrey Epstein, it'd be a much better world. I almost as disturbing as the story. Sorry, I think I got a piece of grass in my eye from when I was weed eating. Um, Almost as disturbing as the story are the amount of people that are hoping that these girls uh, got sexually assaulted and were sexually abused, and that's disturbing. I don't know, man. It's such a dark place right now. This whole world's in such a dark place. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Ugh. In other news, um, so the left is going crazy and shooting at ICE officers, ambushing them. So that's happening. That's exciting. But that's not the funny story I want to talk about. Let's talk about Donald Trump at his 4th of July uh, rally announces that next year, for the 250th birthday of the United States, there will be a UFC event on the White House lawn. I hope this happens. I want this to happen so bad. It's, I don't, it's one of those things that logistically, I think it's going to be a real problem. I don't think they're going to be able to pull it off. Not in a year, to set up a temporary stadium. They have those inflatable. I've seen, like, I think the Texans, practice facility is like an inflatable building that they can collapse and move. Um, and so I know they can do something like that where they do this like in kind of inflatable stadium that's held up. I think Cirque du Soleil does something like this as well, or one of the circuses. I thought it was Cirque du Soleil. I could be thinking about something else though. Um, Getting 20,000 people onto the White House lawn to watch UFC fights seems like a real tall task. I don't know if they could pull it off. I hope they do. It's so cheesy. And part of my affinity for Donald Trump, and I'm sure I mentioned it before, part of my affinity for Donald Trump, and not that I agree with everything he does, there's lots of stuff that I'm like, dude, like the whole Iran shit, I was not happy with. I didn't like that. Seems to be working out, which is good because I do not want to send our kids to war because Israel and Iran can't play nice. Um, but he there would be no UFC today if it weren't for Donald Trump and Dana White. And you can have as many problems in the world with Donald Trump and Dana White, but if you're a UFC fan, there you have to have some sort of appreciation for what Donald Trump and Dana White were able to pull off. Not that Donald Trump was an investor into the company or owned a piece of the UFC or anything like that, but when Dana White could not find a facility to host the fights, there weren't stadiums lining up or um, you know casinos lining up to allow UFC to participate. John McCain was running around calling it human cockfighting. They were trying to outlaw it. Um, the athletic commissions didn't want to offer permits and didn't want to license the UFC to host events. And Trump offered up the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, and a lot of events were held there. I believe UFC 30 was there, like in the early 2000s. Like, well, I say early 2000s, like 2003, 2002, 2003. And Trump became a fan of UFC and has kept up with UFC ever since. And so he honestly does have like an investment in UFC, at least this emotional investment, as he was one of the only people at that time when Dana first took over the UFC as the CEO with the Fertitta brothers. Trump was one of the only people that believed in the brand and that would allow Dana to host events at his venue. So So there's recognition, acknowledgement that Trump did have a hand in the history of the UFC and what the UFC's become. And offering up the grounds of the White House to host the UFC event for the 250th anniversary of this country would be so cool. It would be. I mean, we have like other issues with the card. What would the card be? Um, Conor McGregor has thrown his hat in the ring and said he'll come out of retirement. Like, I don't even know if he's like actually retired. I don't know. I don't think Conor's ever coming back. I don't think he'll ever fight again. All these people that are so excited to want to see Conor McGregor, you got to understand if Conor McGregor comes back and fights, it's not going to be Conor McGregor versus Aldo Conor McGregor. This isn't going to be the Conor McGregor of 2015, 2014. Like he was a different animal back then. Once he fought Dustin Poirier that third time, broke his leg, I mean, that's a career-ending injury. He broke his shin, guys. Like this is not something. That's why he got out of the testing pool and went on steroids to increase the speed at which the surgery would heal because the amount of plates and crap. Chris Weidman talks about his recovery. He ended up getting like 5 infections when he had that same surgery to repair his shin when he broke his shin. So this is not like even if he comes back. I mean, if you've been watching, like Chris Weidman was out for 3 years, and Chris Weidman when he came back, he's not the same guy. I mean, he's retired now. He retired a few months ago, but I mean, he fought 3 fights when he came back. He wasn't the same guy. He won one of those fights pretty convincingly, and I was excited for him because Chris Weidman was a freaking monster. He's a legend, you know, and you're not going to see the same performance. He's not going to be the same guy. He's not going to be bouncing around the octagon like he did when he was in his prime. This is a 36-year-old post shin break surgery, plates in his leg, steroid weight. He's going to have to cut a lot of that fucking muscle off. He's just not the same guy. And it's not going to be the same person that shows up to fight if Conor does ever come back to fight. He's not going to be the same guy he was in his prime. It's not the same Connor that fought Nate Diaz, not the same Connor that fought Jose Aldo, not the same Connor that fought Eddie Alvarez. It's just not the same guy. He's not the two division champion Connor anymore. That's just not who he is. And so, it's sad. Like, I remember watching the fall of Chuck Liddell, you know. Well, you never had to see that with Connor. Like, be happy. Like, if you look at Tony Ferguson's last fucking 10 fights. Like, nobody enjoyed watching that. Nobody enjoyed that. And Tony Ferguson still wants to come back. And it's like, dude, you were a fucking monster. You were fucking unbeatable for 12 fucking fights. Nobody could touch Tony Ferguson. But he lost it. His chin's gone. That freaking Michael Chandler kick did a number to him, man. Like that Justin Gaethje fight did a number to him. He hasn't been the same since. Like you can't, you're not, your body can only take so much of that punishment. And that's why, like, I'm excited for the Dustin Poirier fight, man. He's getting out before he's fucking left him. He's getting out before his mind's gone and before he can't take a punch anymore, you know? And I appreciate that. As much as I love watching the guy fight and I love to watch the guy fight for another 10 fucking years, you got to understand the human body has limitations. It can only do so much. It can only take so much punishment. And, you watch like the Chuck Liddells who knocks himself out by running into Rich Franklin's straight right hand. You're just like, fuck, dude. God, Frankie Edgar's last fight. These guys, it's hard to watch when these, these gladiators, so that's like modern day gladiators as far as I'm concerned. These gladiators freaking, fall, but they all all these runs come to an end one day. And Connors is over. And if he ever comes back, he's not going to be the same Connor. Um, he's not going to be throwing the same kind of kicks. He's not going to be as light on his feet. He's not going to have the same movement. It's just not going to be the same Connor. And it's unfortunate that his run ended the way it did with that Dustin Poirier loss. But I mean, Dustin Poirier had already TKO'd him once before that too. So, I mean, so it's Connor's just he's it's done. It's over. But he's thrown his hat in the ring. Now, if you're just gonna make a fun, gimmicky kind of and don't get me wrong, if it's on the White House lawn, dude, put it as a freaking fight night, not a pay-per-view, and just gimmick it up, man. Bring back Forrest Griffin out of the PI. Like, fuck it. Like, have some fun with it. Bring back Rampage to fight Rashad Evans. Like, just have some fun with it. Bring back some of the legends to fight. Um, Jim Miller, have Jim Miller fight, on that card, bring back Jake Shields and Josh Thompson and some of the legends of the sport. Like that would be fun. That would be great if you just brought back some of the legendary fighters, when it was a purely American sport, right? Just bring back these legendary fighters and have them fight. Josh Thompson's been talking about doing bare knuckle against Nate Diaz. Have them fucking rematch in UFC. He's the only person that's ever knocked out Nate Diaz. Let's fucking go, dude. Let's do it. See if Matt Brown will come back to fight on the White House lawn. I'll text him right now. I don't give a shit. I'm like, dude, come on, come on. I want to see Matt Brown versus Robbie Lawler again. Like something like that. It's like, have some fun with it. John Jones has also come out. He said, "Well, I was retired for 2 weeks, but if we're gonna do a fight at the White House, I'll come back and I'm back in the testing pool. I'll fucking fight on that card." And it's like, God, fuck you, John. They should make you go back to 205, dude. Make you go to 205 and fight Ankalaev. Fuck you, man. I'm so sick of that guy. I'm sick of him and I'm sick of Connor. It's so fuck. It's so annoying, man. They can't because they were such big stars, they can't stand not to be the center of attention. They got to be in the middle of it. Ain't like Joshua Van beats up freaking Brandon Morales 2 weekends ago. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I go check Connor's freaking um, timeline on X and he's like, I'll fight Joshua Van. I'll knock his ass out. Yeah, dude, because he's a 125 pounder and you're way like 190 pounds right now, all swole up on fucking steroids and testosterone, you know? Let's have freaking Conor McGregor fight Chael Sonnen. That would be a fucking badass fight. I'd pay to see Conor McGregor versus Chael Sonnen. Let's fucking do it. You know, you want to talk about the two greatest shit talkers ever in the history of the UFC? Chael Sonnen versus Conor McGregor at the White House. Come on, man. Like it's just not real to expect like this to be. You just kind of have to take it as a gimmick. It's a gimmick. Trump's full of gimmicks. He loves that flashy, gimmicky thing. The freaking octagon will be laced with gold and it'll be fun. And I hope they do it. I don't think they'll be able to do it, but I hope they do it. I think it would be fun. You could turn it into a really fun event and bring back Nate Diaz, bring back Nick Diaz, bring back some of the legends of the sport that can fight, that are still in shape, still willing to fight and could throw down. That would be fun, dude. That would be a fucking blast. I'm not talking about bringing back Tank Abbott, but if he weren't all sucked up and like God, he looks like dog shit. Last time I saw him, he had lost a bunch of weight and he looked like he was on death's door. But like yeah, man, bring back some of them legends. Mark Coleman. I bet Mark Coleman could still wrestle. Put Mark Coleman in there against Frank Shamrock. Come on, dude. Like we could have some fun with this card, you know? But yeah, I think that's a freaking badass idea. I love the idea. I would love to watch it. I don't know how logistically they could do it. I don't know how they could get it done. But if they get it done, dude, I'm fucking stoked. I will talk about that for the next year. I will mention it on every podcast after they announce it, the card. But yeah, it's got to be an all-American card. You don't need a title fight on it. Just gimmick it up, do it as a fight night, have a fucking blast with it, you know. So, yeah, that'd be awesome. Bring back some of them Pride guys. I'd be into it. Some of the WEC guys, maybe some Strike Force guys. Maybe you can get Cowboy Cerrone in there. Yeah. Yeah. I'm in. I'm in. Take my money, motherfuckers. So yeah, that'd be fun, dude. I hope they do that. And anyway, that's all I got for y'all. Um, really, the main thing was Epstein definitely did not kill himself. Remember that. He definitely did not kill himself. And you're supposed to believe them. All right. Don't doubt it. All right. Y'all have a good one. I'll get this released tonight. It's Tuesday. So I'll get it out tonight. And y'all have it as soon as it's out. Peace.